Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Low Season Traveller Insider Guides. I'm your host, Ged Brown, founder of Low Season Traveller, and this week we're delighted to be joined by our good friend Pia Louw from Turismo Tenerife. Now, I have to admit that whilst I've visited Tenerife many times in the past on business, I'd never had the opportunity to really truly explore the island until my last visit. And what I experienced absolutely blew me away. Like many people, I thought I knew Tenerife, whereas in fact I had no idea just how diverse and magical this island of contrasts truly is. Truly, Tenerife awakens emotions which you don't expect after such a short and relatively inexpensive flight from the UK. So join myself and Pia now, and let's discover together just why Tenerife is so special during the low seasons. Enjoy. So Pia, a very good morning to you and welcome to the Low Season Traveller Insider Guides podcast. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much, Jed.
It's an absolute pleasure. Wonderful to see you. I'm going to get straight in. We've just spoken a little bit off air, and there's just absolutely so much that we can talk about with Tenerife, which is wonderful. But the first question that we always like to ask our guests is, typically when you wake up in Tenerife, what do you see, hear, and smell when you wake up in Tenerife?
You see the sea, you feel the sun, and it smells fresh because our air is pure and it's relaxed. So this is when you breathe in and you get all this oxygen into your lungs, it's just the waking up of new day, and off you go down to the beach or up to the mountain or just a little walk around the local village. That is what's inspired. And then down to the first coffee shop and have your morning coffee. And get the local ambience around you with the people walking around, going to the shops, or putting the kids on the bus to go to school and so on. That is the ambience. That is the spirit about it.
Absolutely love that. Well, that's a great opener for us. And I suppose, for those people that have been living under a rock for the past sort of 50, 60 years, give us a little bit of an overview as to of where Tenerife is located and how it came to exist, I suppose.
Well, this is many years back. This is really the times of the dinosaurs. We go back about million of years, and you had this eruption of a volcanic eruption, the Atlantic Ocean, just outside from the coast of Africa, from Morocco. So they say that we are united to the Atlas Mountains. It's just been proven recently. We are not.
Really?
So this is really strange. Yes, I thought so myself, because the only civilization nearest to the Canary Islands is actually the coast of Morocco, and it's said to be the Berber's to be the ones to be the people who came out to the islands, because we have our origins called as Gigantes. So it's very doubtful still if this is so. But recently I read it was not. We don't have that naval cord going into the Atlas Mountains as it's been proven before. So there's an eruption going on with then 7 islands rises, and recently we have a little spot of an island called Garrachico in the Canaries, which is then the 8th island. So we're not more than 7, we're now 8 islands. So that is the official numbering of the Canary Islands. And the recent eruption or sort of lava quake that we've had on the islands was in El Hierro. This is already now about 5 to 6 years ago, so it's just time runs, and that was down La Retinga, and you don't see it. It's still under good level of water of the ocean, but it's there. That was the last seismic activity there's been. So we are located in the Atlantic Ocean, very close to the Tropic of Cancer, which allows us to have a fantastic climate all year round. And we are in the circle of the trade winds. So when you have the current coming from the coast of the United States, from the Gulf of Mexico, and it turns up into Iceland, and it waves down and turns by the Canary Islands, this is the stream that very famous in conquistadors and explorers in the past took to go and discover America, which Christopher Columbus.
Of course, yeah. Absolutely wonderful. So these again, we were talking about this sort of off air just before, but essentially we're talking about volcanic islands based there in the Atlantic. And I was sort of saying before, and I wasn't sure whether it was right or not, and you were saying, well, yes, kind of. But Tenerife and I suppose the islands of the Canaries, they can be likened in many ways to the islands of Hawaii in the Pacific and other such volcanic islands. And I don't really think that people fully recognize that as much as they should sometimes, because they bring with it a huge diversity in landscape, of course, for the islands like Tenerife, don't they?
True, and we are fine with it. You can compare us because it's true. Everyone says that if you've got photographers, geologists coming out, anyone who's been to Hawaii and then they come to the Canary Islands, and it's especially Tenerife because of the orograph that we have. We've got the heights. It's the tallest mountain of Spain. It's on the island of Tenerife. Imagine, it's not even on the continent of Europe. It's actually on an island. So it's really, amazing. And this is the fascinating world about being a volcanic island. It's so rich in minerals and nutrient, and because where we are located, as I said, close to the Tropic of Cancer, and with the trade winds, we have eternal spring. And this is something that's similar to the Hawaii Islands as well. They have fantastic weather all year round. They've got their surfways. We have our surfways. They have their bed of mountains of the clouds. We have our bed mountains of clouds as well. And it just keeps on going. So of course the plants and the crops are different because we are in the Atlantic and they are in the Pacific, but otherwise there's so many similarities there.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. The we always sort of say that Tenerife is synonymous with nature, as it's blessed with this incredibly diverse landscape. But as we're talking there with the volcanic side, I suppose, look, we should really, of course, talk about Teide, which dominates the skyline from. I mean, it's visible from practically anywhere within Tenerife, and I'm sure beyond Tenerife as well. What does Teide mean to the people of Tenerife?
Well, Teide is the power. Well, Los Guanches call it Teide with a YH, funny enough.
Right.
And it is it's a magical place. It's the power. It's the mother. It's the it's better say it's the father, because it's just like with the Incas, they got the sky and the land, and this is similarity is the same. So this is the power of our environment. This is the power that gives you the richness to the island. So everyone on the island as a resident and local. I say resident because I'm from abroad. So I've been living here since my childhood, and this is my home, and I feel myself Canarian. And Teide is the most, and it's the father of the island. It's the power. So this is what it means, and giving us all the facilities and opportunities of the nature, as you said yourself. 48% of it is protected. So many who may know Tenerife have come on holidays in the past. They may not have been having the possibility of going out and adventure around the island, but it is really fantastic, the source of nature that's available, and it's all protected. We not overrun the island. We've been a popular holiday destination throughout many, many years, more than 50 years, and we still maintain the 50% of the islands protected. Actually, today, we are receiving the Biosphere Certificate, which is being honored to the island. 80% of the activities which is done and which is schemed on the island for the protection of the sustainability is granted today.
That's incredible. Congratulations. That's absolutely awesome news. Truly wonderful. When we talk about Teide, it's interesting that you sort of say about how, obviously visitors have been going to Tenerife for many, many years. And I'm embarrassed about this, but I've been to Tenerife quite a number of times. And it was only in the past 12 months that I went to Teide, to the national park there. And it just, again, absolutely blew me away, because it's more than just a volcano. It's the whole area around it. And I wasn't prepared for it, because, I drove up, I took, and this is a great tip actually for any of our listeners. I hired a car. I had a convertible. Why not? Took the hood down, as you do, and started to drive up. And you go through these different landscapes on your way up, and you get to the cloud layer. It's just absolutely incredible. You get to one layer, and then all of a sudden there's pine forests everywhere all the way around. And then you drive further up, and there's lava fields, and the whole landscape changes as you drive up. I mean, that park is just absolutely out of this world. It's like nowhere else on earth, right?
Yes, it is magical. And this is what we say. The Mountain Teide is a unique place. And the national park is actually protected, well, as part of the UNESCO. We are a part of everyone's, it's a mankind privilege of a national park.
Yeah.
And its extension is huge. And then you say, because you are actually escalating the heights from 0 up to 2,300 meters above sea level. And then it's the Mountain Teide where you can take a cable car, and with a special authorization, you can actually go to the very summit of the Mountain Teide. And what I recommend is one of these special occasions is actually you can wake up at crack of dawn, stay the night over in the refugio, as we call it, which is a little night or connecting point where you can stay over the night with a rucksack, bring along your food, and then you can walk up the remaining 500 meters or 300 meters, and you need to have really good lungs. And there you can see the break of dawn, and you will see the silhouette of Teide into the national park when the rises of the sun is there. It's just impeccable. It's a must to do. It's a must to do.
Absolutely out of
And
this
this
world.
then shows you how big that national park is, because the silhouette just covers
Yeah.
all of it. And the range is immense. And no matter where you are in that national park, there's some official trails. So you can actually set off for a walk. And there is difficulty. There is very high difficulty trails, but there's also very simple ones. And the location of the national park is also well known among our elite cyclists who come down and train, because they're training in the heights and they get much more oxygen into the lungs for the training. So
High
they train
altitude
up
training.
2,000 in the altitude training for
Yeah.
2,000 meters. And that area where the Hotel Parador is, that is a unique hiking site. You can actually cross over what is called the strip, the very back of the mount of the crater, and then you actually walk down to the south of the island. And you can walk down from that side of the mountain of the Parador, and you cover it, and then you walk down to Villa Flor, and then you will see different orientation of vegetation, landscaping. Again, this is volcanic, so no matter where you go, there's always something new around you. You'll always be distracted seeing all these colors and images of the eruption from the past. It's amazing.
It's just incredible. I mean, I'd never seen lava fields in my life before. I was just fascinated by it. And also it's because obviously it's a huge area, and it's just so quiet. And
Yes.
you don't associate silence with huge, big, imposing structures and spaces. And it's just it's almost spiritual, actually. I really sort of did feel that. But yes, I saw a lot of cyclists there, and you know, why not? It's wonderful. What I found interesting as well is, and you forget, don't you? Because when you're on sea level in Tenerife, as you were saying, it's spring all year round, effectively. And it's lovely and warm, of course, beautiful in t-shirts. So I got in the convertible car, and I'm driving up, and of course you first of all, when you go through the cloud layer, it can get a little bit wet. Then you get beyond the cloud layer and you see the sun again, and it's it gets a bit chilly up there, doesn't it? It's you need to be prepared for that.
Yeah, I was there last weekend. I did my hiking. I do a lot of hiking. Why not? I live on this island,
Yeah,
and I
of
can allow
course.
it to happen. And it was not even 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was 8 degrees Celsius. And that was
Wow.
up in the mountain, and that is just in the national park.
Yeah.
So we started walking, getting into heat, getting a bit of the warm, your energy into your body.
Yeah.
But it was only about 3 hours later, so it would be about noon, the temperature rise. Otherwise, it was always around those 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, not more.
Yeah.
And that is Mount Teide now, today in month of April. But then in the winter, it can be -5, and the roads are closed, because we do sometimes have a little bit of snow.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that's going to be 25 degrees Celsius in the coastline, because that's you can do Christmas Eve. You can be here for Christmas, and it's 25 or even more. And you can see the Mountain Teide from the distance, and it's covered in snow. And the
That's
snow is just
incredible.
melting off. The little what is left from this
Yeah.
winter, melting off right now.
Yeah, that's unreal. It's unreal. Let's talk about some more of the different landscapes around Tenerife. Because sorry, how big is Tenerife? What's the
It's about 2,300 square kilometers.
right?
You can actually drive around it in if you do a non-stop. If you stop for one area, and you can
Yeah.
actually drive around the island. It's like the shape of the island is like a turkey body, as I say, because you got the head of it. That is where the capital of the island is, and
Yeah.
with beautiful natural areas as well. And then the body opens up into the middle. That's where the mountain Teide is. And then it closes down with the tail. And that is where another rural district of the island of nature is located as well. And and then of course the orograph and everything goes up into the air, to sort of say, and rises from the ocean. And that is the view of Tenerife. And circling around the island is just fascinating. And no matter where you go, you can stop every 45 minutes, and then you have a new village, new site, new coast, new inland activity, or you're into the mountain itself. But circling the island with non-stop is just a 3 hours drive. So it's very easy to drive around, and very, very easy if you have family, because kids can actually, if they get car sick, you can go off quickly. There's a mirador, which is the highlights points where you can see scenic panoramic views, or you stop by a beach, or you buy a little village, and you will always find something, a little restaurant, a little cafeteria. Always stop where the taxi drivers are, because these are the good local places and have a good
Very
food.
good tip. I love that.
Yeah, those are the things that watch out, and always don't go on the main road. Go in secondary roads, because this is where the adventure starts.
I love that, and that's so much what we're about at Low Season Traveller, because low season travellers, they tend to go, like I said, not necessarily off the beaten track, but if there's a choice of two roads, one is the main road and one's slightly less travelled, the road less travelled, I suppose. And that's actually, as a side note, we were nearly going to call the company the Road Less Travelled, actually, but it was trademarked, so we couldn't. But that's exactly the ethos. It's not going where absolutely everybody always goes, but cutting a slightly different path where fewer people go. And just on that, you mentioned before, it is, relatively speaking, it's quite a small island, relatively speaking, 3 hours to drive around. But the difference in the landscapes is just incredible for such a relatively small island. And look, tell us a little bit about Anaga, because this is one of my, when you go to some destinations, you have what I call a travel surprise, something that you weren't necessarily expecting, that absolutely blows your mind. Now with Teide is incredibly well known as obviously being a central part of Tenerife. Anaga, I wasn't as familiar with, and maybe our listeners aren't as familiar with Anaga. Tell us a little bit about Anaga.
Well, Anaga is just located on the very nose of the island, which is called the northeast side of the island. And Anaga is a UNESCO, it's a biosphere protected area. It means that the whole community within the range of the park of Anaga is under the domain of back to the origins. Small villages, people living there in small locations. You've got then the farmers with the cheesemakers, and everything is as it was 50 years back. Nothing has changed. And this is the magic of this place. And Anaga has an extension from the very heights of about 2,000 meters above sea level, some areas, and then it goes straight down into the ocean. So you've got these serpentine roads bending around the corners, where each time you've got the pine trees, or you've got these fantastic views of a new mountain. You think you're in a completely different landscaping.
Yeah.
And when you immerse yourself into this landscape, you will see the Laura Silva and the cedar forest. And this is really how the forests were in Europe before Ice Age. And this you actually discover in the park of Anaga, and it's a biosphere protected area. And it means also that if you go down coast to the areas, then specific sort of the fisherman's respects then how the fishing is done. It's done in the old style. It's done with the nets. It's not done in the modern style. All of these elements are then respected. And some sites, like if you can, for easy walk, I will go to Punta del Carmen. Walk there, and then you see La Laguna in the spread, and then suddenly it merges with Mount Teide in the background, and you say, where am I? I was just around the corner, and suddenly you see this scene. And then you can do another walks further up into the mountain, and then you would then go to, or you can go to Daganana through Santa Cruz. You go into Daganana through all these windy roads, and then suddenly you got all these pebbled houses on the side of a mountain, overlooking a fantastic sight of a district you never imagined, and it's very barren in the sense it's deserted. There's no people.
Yeah.
And well, we locals, we go there because we are fascinated with it. We were talking before, Jet, my favorite spot on the island is Benijo, Playa de Benijo. And it's just magical. And it's a place that you have to go because the ocean, you got all these rocks around you, and it's a natural erosion by the ocean of so many years. And they just pipe up into the ocean like it's like a tune, like waves into the mountains. And then you got this bay, which is the beach, because beaches here are black sand. And it's fine sand. It's not like stony. So this is the origin. Everything is like that, and it's just sitting there on that bay. I'm not a beach person, but that beach is my beach.
You take that one, even if you're not a beach person.
Me. And I don't want anyone else to go there.
That's it. It'll just be us and the low season travelers that'll be there.
Yeah, for the low season travelers, they're going to love it. Adventure around the island. Don't be afraid to go down the coastline. If you feel that you've gone too far up into the mountain and you say, oh, it's too steep for me, or I don't dare, don't worry, turn around. It's always a way back. It's always down again. It's not a problem. So, and then find another way and ask the locals. They'd be more than happy to help you out. If the locals in that area won't speak English, hardly. Yeah. And if they do, then they're very well educated. And which is, of course, happens because we are a touristic island. And there's some small places alongside in Anaga forest range that you can find. There's another adventurous trail I love, and you have to do that through an organized company, is that you do a walk from a certain area in Anaga, you finish off at the very end beyond Playas de Benijo, and they will come and pick you up in a boat and then sail you back into the beach of Las Teresitas in Santa Cruz. Oh, wow. And that is an adventure of the day.
What a great trip that would be.
That's just a bracket of 6 hours adventure. Yeah.
But that's what's incredible. Let's say, there's just so much variety. We've barely sort of touched on, but some of the other Masca Valley. Actually, we have to, we have to talk about Masca Valley, because that's if my memory serves me correct, that's actually on the way up. If you're sort of driving up northwards towards Anaga, it's kind of on the way, isn't it? Is it?
No, it's on the other side.
It's on the other side.
Yeah.
Oops.
Exactly.
There we go. Don't listen to me.
When you're up in Anaga, because it's on the other side. It's more down in Santiago by Los Gigantes. Mm-hmm. So if you are in Los Gigantes, you drive up into the mountain there, and you go into Santiago del Teide, and then you curve yourself towards into the landscaping before you go down to Buena Vista and to the Garrachico. That is the windy side, another windy side of mountain if you want to go there. Yeah. And that is where Masca is. So it's on the southeast of the island. Not the other one is up in the north, and this one is more in the south.
Oh, okay.
And Masca is one of the last villages that had access, which was given to them in the last century. And recently, we just reopened the Barranco de Masca, which is a trail you can walk down, and it's still yet 100. It's now limited for people to go there. It's under control because it was massificated. And what we're doing on the island, that's why we've been given the certification of biosphere, is that we are limiting the number of people going out to the different access, which have difficulty, but also beauty. And in Masca, you got like the cheese factory, and you can try the local goat cheese there. And of course, the impressive windy roads. And then you can go down to Deno from there, which is another serpentine road. And it's cyclists and motorbike bikers. It's their favorite places to go because of the roads.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. There's that kind of lookout where it's almost like the valley that you overlook, and it's just an absolutely magical place.
It's magical, and it's scenic, and all these places can be done during the day. Of course, not in the evenings when it gets dark. But I do recommend to challenge yourself and not stay at any restaurant or whatever. Go out and make yourself a little picnic, and then choose out these picky places, and then just love them. Part of the nature.
And there's a great selection of them. And again, we'll be highlighting all of these on the on the website, and of course during our live program later in May, where we'll obviously be showing everybody all of these places. But there's an awful lot more that we can talk about there. I want to, before we finish this particular episode, I want to talk about two more things. One is the Tenerife sunsets. Again, people historically have always sort of talked about, the famous sunsets of Hawaii. Tenerife, because of the location, because you're at the most sort of westerly point almost of Europe, some of the sunsets there are absolutely incredible. Tell us your favorite spots to enjoy the sunset in Tenerife.
It's my terrace. No.
You're not going to tell us your number one favorite. I wouldn't expect that.
I have a fantastic. Well, we're lucky to be on an island. Everyone has a sea view nearly, so that helps a lot. My favorite spots. There are various spots to go to. It depends how you want to do it. You can actually go up to El Chio, which is 1,800 meters above sea level, and it's on the southern side of the just before entering the national park of Teide, and you sit there and you have this amazing sunset, and it's the colors of the sky. I have colors. I love my pictures, and they are actually like pink, but fuchsia. And then suddenly there are grays and greens, and how can a sun be green, But it's just the blend of these colors around you and the power of the sun when you see it, when it just slowly goes down. Sunsets are very quick here because we are so close to the equator. The further away you are, it's the distancing, but here it's very quick. So when it gets dark, it's pitch black in one go. There's
straight away.
There's no stream of into the blackness. No, it just bangs down and then it's dark. So you always have a lantern with you just in case.
Good tip.
If you are somewhere sitting there enjoying the sunsets. Mount Teide sunsets is fascinating. There is actually a sunset tour where you can go around the bend from the pathway when you go up to Mount Teide, and then they show you around, curving a bit the mountain, and actually you see El Hierro, La Palma, and La Gomera with the sunset at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And this is done, nearly 3,000 meters above sea level.
Yeah.
So you need to have good energy, good lungs, and a good heart to be able to be up in those heights. So that is the most extravagant one to do, okay? And then you can actually scale down as to the heights where you want to be. And there is some beauty scenes. But one of my favorites is really up here in the north of the island. I love to go down to just outside a little place where you can have a nice dinner, and then with the wine or a good gin tonic in the evening before you move out. And then it's down in El Burgado. It's in Buena Vista.
Oh,
and that's a nice place. Or you can go down to Puerto La Cruz or Costa Deje. Oh, there's some fantastic sites there as well. If you just sit by the bay at the marinas and you see the sun goes down and you are in a quiet place, this, as you said before, is pure meditation. And you sit with this powerful sun around you. It's magic. So really, the whole island is magical for a sunset. It depends on what mood you're in and where you are. Or you can be in El Médano, where it's the kite surfers paradise, and you have this as Montaña Amarilla is right there. How you mentioned it before.
Yeah.
It's magical because you got this Montaña Roja also, which is the mountain of Tejina, and you see the sun and the calmness, and there is nothing else than the move of the waves into the beach, and then you see the sun goes down. That is just
wonderful. Absolutely love that. You were talking there before about kite surfing, and I think what I'd like to do is finish this particular episode with just some of the activities that you can do in Tenerife. So obviously, there's an awful lot for nature lovers, but generally from an active point of view, there is so much that you can do in Tenerife. And you were talking there about kite surfing, and I hadn't realized that kite surfing was quite so popular. But there's also sea kayaking, surfing, cycling, of course, you've mentioned already. Walking, of course, there's some incredible walks. What are your sort of favorite activities and recommendations for the active people?
Well, we say that Tenerife is an outdoor gym. Because no matter what, you can do it on the island, okay? Yeah. So it's just you're challenging yourself as in person. And what is your favorite sports? You can do Nordic walk. You can do that in the mountains, in any heights. If you want to, really become a little more professional than being an amateur. You can actually challenge yourself on the island. It's fantastic. You can actually go scuba diving. We actually have deep depth diving as well, if you want to do that as well. Have fantastic underwater world with the Atlantic fishes, and we even have stingrays here in the island. And why not go out for an excursion to see the whales and the dolphins? We now have been granted the first European resource or resort for the safety of the whales and dolphins, and that is just by the area of Los Gigantes and the stream between La Gomera and the island of Tenerife. And this is the area that's being protected now, and the first one in Europe, and with the third one in the world. So it's suddenly, it's a paradise for anyone to come out. And the activities is that if you are, in next month in June, we're celebrating our Blue Trail. So if you're a fanatic of trails and you want to create, you have your point system, and this is the place to come to, because the trail is done. They run from the south, they move out from Costa, run up to Mount Teide, cross the Mount Teide National Park, and finish down in Puerto La Cruz on the other side of the island. And these trails are there, and people come out and train. We even have a challenge, 040, which has been launched this year. So we have runners coming and challenging each other on the heights from El Socorro up to Mount Teide and back again on the same day.
Really? How far is that?
It's I think it's 34 kilometers.
My God. Altitude.
But the extreme of this activity is that because of the heights, it has such an incline. It's the highest incline in Spain. So this is because you start for 0 and suddenly you're just rising, as you said before, when you were driving around. It's 600 meters, 800 meters, 1,000, 1,200, 1,800, 2,000 meters. You're up and you run up to the very top of 3,718. And then you turn around and you run all the way down again.
People do that for fun.
Some do it, yeah. I don't know how they come, but it come around it, but they do, and it's just crazy. But this is the adrenaline run that Tenerife gives to any sports person. We even have a high training center in the south of the island where all elite train people for sports come. We were the sort of connecting point for the Olympics when there was the Olympics in London. So everyone who came out from Asia stopped over in Tenerife to acclimatize themselves, because we've got the same timetable of GMT time zone as well. Cool. So this allowed them then to train in perfect conditions, weather-wise. They came out before and the winter was there, so they started training in the winter, and then off they went to the Olympics. Perfect, so this was so everyone within the different ranges. We have many swimmers. We got football teams coming out training in the summer when the international what's called now football activities are out of season. So they come out here and train.
Midwinter break.
The winter break, exactly. Thank you. I'm not into football, so I'm sorry.
It's all right.
But cyclists come out as well all year round. Some of them came down, and we had our snowfall was very early this year, so some of them got caught up in the snow, and they had to stay over the night up in the Parador. Things like that can happen, but everyone comes out. Anyone who's amateur or professional uses the island. It's outdoors. We even got mountain cliff climbing, because up in the heights, we got different areas. There's a specific barranco, which is like a ravine cave within Arico, which is highly recommended for cliff climbers to do that challenge. And it's on volcanic rocks, it's not granite and everything. Well, it will be like balsamic because it's really hardened by its time of eruption. And it's fascinating, all these cliffs that you find around you. Or it's the hiking, as we talked about before. We've got more than 1,500 kilometers trails on the island. You can actually cross the island walking. And this is also organized through a company locally, but I recommend it to do so because you see the island from a completely different perception. And you will actually start in Punta del Teno and you will finish in Anaga. And that's called the RT131. And it's part of the European trail, which is called, I think it's the E7. Okay. And that route is part of that. So it's fascinating. And then we've got the surf, and then you've got starlight gazing as well in the nights. Yes. This is starlight destination.
It's one of the best places in the world for stargazing. I've read up about this quite a bit. My daughters are fascinated by stargazing, and I
Yes,
was reading up about this, and it's one of the best places in the world for stargazers.
it is, yeah. And so we have some small municipalities that's been granted the starlight destination, and the island respects what's called light pollution. We
Yep.
don't have light pollution.
Mm.
So when you drive around, you may find black spots here and there. That is because we want to protect the lights does not intervene with the research that there is on the island. We have a astrophysics center with more than 7 telescopes, and it's the after Chile and within Hawaii, and also with our sister island La Palma, it's Tenerife. Because of the clean skies, our location so close to the equator, we have a special bend. It turns specifically so the telescopes are able to have a wide view of the skies when they do the stargazing, and also the observatory of the stars, which the sun is also a star.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of solar observatory here on the island.
Wonderful. Gosh,
And that can
just
be visited as well, and under specific visit sites and so on with a local company, I recommend to do that, because you get a guide to
yeah.
instruct you. You get to meet the local scientists, so it's very interesting.
Yeah, wonderful. There's just so much. I mean, it is, there's so many destinations. Like you, Pia. I've been in tourism for so long, and you get used to hearing about so many different destinations and every destination, everyone claims that they've got it all. But Tenerife, really, you kind of do have. You do have it all, really. And, in the next episode, we'll be talking a little bit more about the culture and the cultural heritage of the island, which, is also incredibly rich. But from a natural standpoint, and also from the activities that people can do there, as well as from a climatic standpoint, really, quite a blessed island. I can see why you stayed there, Pia, put it that way.
In these circumstances of what we all are running through this pandemic, we are very fortunate. We are
Yeah.
blessed and grateful to be able to have been placed on this side of the world, to be on a little island called Tenerife under confinement, because we have the weather, we have the climate with us. And I feel sorry for those who have had hard winters, haven't been able to come out or to move around. Our restrictions have been very light, in the sense that there are restrictions and very hard, but we've been allowed to use our island, and we've been able to see, and allowing the island's facility in offering these different aspects of what can I do on the island has made it easy for us living here on the island to overcome this pandemic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of hear you, because the past 4 months that we've had the lockdown in the UK, where it's been winter and, you've only been able to do stuff outside and the weather's not been, really the best. It's been really challenging. And I must admit, you do sort of think, gosh, I bet in places like Tenerife, it's not quite as bad. Still, still can be challenging. I get that, but you've just got this sort of richness of being able to be outdoors and to stay healthy, and that's what it's been all about, really. I think through this pandemic is we all want to remain healthy and keep as active as possible. And I think that's, like you say, to Tenerife, it's like an outdoor playground. It's just one big outdoor playground, which I just love. Pia, sadly, we've run out of time for this particular episode, but thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today, and really looking forward to the next episode, where we'll dive a little bit more into the culture and heritage of the island. But for now, thank you so much, Pia. So there you have it. Huge thanks again to Pia from Turismo Tenerife, and please do check out the Tenerife page on lowseasontraveller.com to see the pictures and full details of what we've been talking about today. On the next episode, on Thursday in fact, we talk with Pia again, but this time we focus on the culture and heritage which is unique to Tenerife. It should be a really great episode. Also, just to let you know that next week we're going to be coming to you live from Tenerife on Facebook and YouTube, so that you can see exactly what Tenerife is like right now during the low season months. as we explore the sites and meet the locals. We are so excited for this and hope that you can join us next week too. Follow our page on Facebook and subscribe to our updates via lowseasontraveller.com to be the first to hear about these programs and indeed many more which we're planning right now. Finally, if there are any destinations which you'd like us to feature in future episodes, then we would love to hear from you. Please do contact Kate, Honor, or myself, and it would be absolutely wonderful to have your feedback. And that's our podcast done for today. Thanks, as always, for your company. I hope you have a great week. And remember, now more than ever, travel is better without the crowds.